Oh man. Gibby is in the doghouse, yo. Gibby is in the doghouse. Rivera is going through some things. The fellas are in. AJ's in. Birdie's in. P from 50 Gut Podcast. He's in. Let's go ahead and get this thing going, man. Trap Or Die Podcast starting up right now. Trap it down. Trap it down. Trap it down. You gon' trap it down. Trap it down. You gon' trap it down. I just appreciate everybody watching.
Watch him throw the ball. We gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap Or Die.
Here we go. Let's get the fellas in this thing right quick. There we are. Welcome back to another episode of the Trap Or Die Podcast, provided to you by 214 Media. I am your host, Mual. AJ's in tonight. Dre is in tonight. Like I said, P from the 50 Gut Podcast is in tonight. Everybody's in, man. Fellas, before we even get started, get things going, how are y'all doing, man? It's been some time, you know what I'm saying? A whole bunch of things in transpired since we last talked, and that was just last week.
Well, some of us wasn't here. AJ and Paul weren't here, but everything's great, man. We got football going again. We had a whole full weekend slated, man. I watched as much as I could, including our Commanders, which we're gonna get into tonight.
Yeah, man. I just spent the week watching preseason football, man. Just analyzing, different things across the league, seeing, who might break through on some rosters, and of course watching these. I hate saying the damn name, Commanders.
Watching your boys, you know what I'm saying? That's what you're doing, watching your boys.
Yeah.
I feel it. So before we get to P right quick, who was one of those people across the league that tapped your interest, I say?
For me, man, I definitely seen Bryce Perkins, the backup quarterback for Matt Stafford of the Rams, step up big time. I definitely felt like he made some great plays downfield and also uses athletic ability to create. You typically see across the league, and I guess maybe we'll touch on that as well on tonight's show, but you typically see the backup of the starters being able to replicate somewhat of what that QB1 can do. And I think, Bryce definitely showed that he could throw the ball downfield alongside being able to create on the run.
My man P, how you feeling, big dog? Long time no speak. We ain't seen or heard from you since I think it was draft night, which was a wild ass night. I should have been had you back on.
Yeah, no, man, Maul, I appreciate you having me on, brother. But I didn't miss the chaos, man. There's been a lot with this team the past few decades, but especially the past few months. I took a little break from actually following the team as closely as I really wanted to, just because the chaos every day with Dan Snyder in the news. He on the yacht. I don't know where he's at. The House committee is just like, man, I'll see y'all in October. I'll see y'all in August when the preseason starts. But it's good to be back, though. It's really good to be back with y'all.
You know what? I respect that, because I don't know too many people that actually said things like that. It's the only person I know that ever got close to that. I found out he was a Skins fan last year, and he said to hell with everything Washington in like 2012. Like that was the last time he was a fan of the team, bro. He ain't looked back since.
Oh, well, trust me, I'm still like reading all the draft breakdowns. I'm reading the camp breakdowns. I'm following closely, but just like when I flip on the channel and I'm trying to see my team, I'm seeing Dan Snyder's face. I'm seeing the House committee. I'm seeing Jason Wright doing something crazy. I'm like, man, get back to me when we're back to football now, because it's too much of this other shit going on.
Yes, sir. Hi, checking in on Twitch. Said, did we hear about Gibby getting the 13 reps? Of course we did. That's on the item. That's on the menu today. So let's go ahead and get through the administrative items right quick, and then let everybody know what's on our agenda. And whichever way you are listening or watching. If you're watching live, make sure you hit that follow button or hit that subscribe button. It does help the show's growth. We are not too far away from 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, man. You know that's always appreciative. You know that means big things for Trapper Dive too in terms of our growth and exposure and things like that. So let's try and get that done. If you are new, as like I said, if you are listening, make sure you hit that rate and review. It takes 2 seconds to do. We truly appreciate that. The fellas appreciate it. I appreciate it. First and foremost, on the agenda today, we haven't talked Commanders and Panthers, so we're definitely going to tap into it, get our winners and losers from the Commanders game this past Saturday. What did we learn about the team? Antonio Gibson update that is on that thing. Is he in the doghouse? And what do we make of his 2022 season now? And then we have some things on Jamin Davis. It's probably going to be a free-flowing conversation because this is going to take us 1,000 different ways based on, some of the stuff that's come out. But Jamin Davis had some news over the last couple of days. He's been getting some good reviews. So we're going to talk about Jamin Davis and the former first-round pick from 2021. So, fellas, you all know, like Alex just checked in, the biggest loser so far is Antonio Gibson. That's a fact. But I'm going to give the floor to all three of y'all. Whoever wants to take the floor first. We haven't heard y'all thoughts on observations or anything Washington Commanders and Carolina Panthers. So whoever wants to take the floor first, you got it, and we can just keep it going from there.
Yeah, I think, I don't really think there's any winner or loser team-wise with the first week of preseason. But, overall, you got to see some things out of a couple players, see how they fit within what's already, set up and arranged. I think with Carson Wentz, definitely started off shaky. I didn't really care for the play calling too much. A lot of people are raving about what they're seeing out of Carson. All right, cool. At the end of the day, I just didn't really see anything play design-wise that I probably would have wanted to see to take advantage of the strengths of Carson Wentz. I don't care if it's preseason or not. I think that Scott Turner has to show a little bit more tempo and understanding of his play calling a little bit more. So maybe we'll see that as week 2 of preseason is pretty much going to be the last time we see the starters until September 11th. I believe that's the date of the opening season for Washington. So I definitely, want to see what gets drawn up on that side of the ball a little bit more. Defensively, I'm seeing the same exact scheme and play calling. I'm seeing the big glaring hole where they need a linebacker that can cover. There's one play in particular, someone broke down on Twitter where it was like a crossing route of the receiver. I think
Cole Holcomb and Cam Curl were both in the box with the meshing route between the receiver and I think it was a tight end, I believe. And Cole Holcomb misidentified the coverage they were in and fucked around and let his man go free.
Exactly. So that's huge for me because once again they have not identified this linebacker position and they're trying their best to sell people on the idea of Cole Holcomb being the starting middle linebacker. But he's good in the box. He can play the run, but when it comes to coverage, he cannot play the coverage. He gets lost. He's been getting lost since his days at UNC. It hasn't changed. He doesn't get enough depth. He doesn't understand some of the concepts. That was glaring right there because that's just preseason, but still you could see that's going to be replicated throughout the rest of the year. Any offensive game planner is going to attack those linebackers with crossing routes and making sure that they understand the communication and the responsibilities. So that was huge for me. I definitely like seeing that deep ball breakup pass between William Jackson III and Bobby McCain. I just wish that Bobby McCain played the ball better instead of the actual player. If he played the ball, that would have been a pick. But overall, man, I think it was a good showing. I think that people definitely got to see the difference between Wentz and Taylor Heineke arm strength-wise, and that also Sam Howell replicates what Carson Wentz can do more so than Taylor Heineke can replicate what he does. So that's where I knew the conversation was going to get started. And I think we talked about it on the show where I was like, Taylor's in trouble, At the end of the day, like I just started this conversation off with Bryce Perkins and Matt Stafford and watching across the league between your QB1 and your QB2, you kind of want your QB2 to replicate what your QB1 can do. And the drop-off between Wentz and Taylor Heineke, 1 and 2, is too significant to have Taylor Heineke on this roster and taking up a quarterback spot or a roster spot in general. I think you have to start thinking about maybe putting Sam Howell in more of these snaps in preseason to see if he could possibly be that number 2, because him and Carson Wentz have a live arm and Taylor Heineke does not at all.
Well, Douglas, Tar, I got you, Dre. My bad. I just got to get there. I want to introduce the people. That's all. Douglas, I see you. That's perfect timing too, Doug, because I'm about to hit you up soon. I want to make sure you get on the Thursday show for the preview. So we're gonna try. I'm gonna lock in with you on that one.
They play Thursday?
No. Thursday, the preview show. You don't play like Saturday. All Saturday games. Thank God. But yeah, Tar, I see you. Hawk, what's going on, big dog? Let's go ahead and get back to Dre, man. We're talking about observations, takeaways, anything we learned from the Commanders and Panthers game. Dre, you got the flow.
Yeah, before I got into my winners and losers, I kind of wanted to mess with AJ a bit and counter one of his points about
Dre always want to mess with me in the first 10 minutes of the show.
You always say something to make me want to mess with you. So,
all right, go ahead.
But it was the whole Carson point where he was saying that, he probably felt that Scott probably should have showcased him a little bit more to his strengths. And, it's kind of been one of the things I've been kind of seeing with people's reactions to the game. And they're saying, oh, well, Carson didn't do anything great. He didn't do anything bad. First off, I think preseason for any starting quarterback, whether it's Patrick Mahomes, Carson Wentz, or whatever, I think the most important thing is you don't look bad. Like in preseason, like it's hard to be great as a starting quarterback because first off, you're not in any kind of rhythm or anything, and especially in Carson's situation, I want to give him a little slack because he's in a new system and he's also dealing with a lot of pressure, and a lot of people are saying he can't do this, he can't do that, and I thought the team did a pretty good job in just trying to get him warmed up in this preseason game. Just get him comfortable and take the layups, and that's been one of Carson's knocks, from Philly and Indianapolis, is that he doesn't take the layups and he's always looking for the big play. And I thought Carson did a pretty good job of that in his little short stint in his previous game, of taking what the defense was given to him. And, obviously he played 3 drives. He probably only needed to play 2, but Antonio Gibson fumbled. So we don't know how that drive would have played out. So he stayed in a little longer than you wanted him to stay in. But I thought he did what was asked of him. He didn't look terrible. Of course, he didn't look great. There was not much for him to look great in this game. I just thought that he did what was asked of him, and he didn't give anybody the shivers that a lot of people probably thought they would have got. Like a lot of people may have thought he was going to be terribly inaccurate due to the reports that we were hearing out of training camp, or maybe he comes in, he throws some interceptions, but he didn't. Like I said, he didn't get injured, he didn't look terrible, and I think that's all you can ask of him. He got comfortable, and hopefully that carries over into a rhythm, and he just keeps getting comfortable. Anyway, getting back to my winners and losers. My first winner, of course, is Brian Robinson. Obviously, because of how he looked, I thought he played an exceptional game for his 6 carries. I think he had 6 carries, but he not only won because of how he looked, but he won because Antonio Gibson fucked up again. So that put him into a bigger, situation for him, or a bigger opportunity for him to kind of go out there and grasp this starting running back job. Like last week, before our show last week, I reached out to Mual and I said, Mual, one of the topics we could talk about tonight, I said, is I'm hearing that Brian Robinson is getting first team looks and Antonio Gibson is kind of running with the second team. I said, I think we can kind of talk about that. And then you see Antonio Gibson first fumble, he's out of the game, and he's running with the second string. Like they, not only was he out of the game, they put him back in once they took the starters out. And that gave Brian Robinson an opportunity to go out there and show why they drafted him in the 3rd round. And I thought he looked great. Well, he looked good. He didn't fumble, and he showed vision and patience, and he got yards, and he didn't go down at first contact. So that's a good first showing for him. And right now there's a battle for the starting running back job. And he put himself in great position this weekend with that. Of course, I'm gonna go with Sam Howell. Now, I'm not going to go overboard with as a lot of people are with Sam Howell's performance. I mean, I thought he looked good. I mean, for a rookie, and he showed promise. He showed that he could be a developmental piece. And to AJ's point earlier about backup quarterbacks kind of mimicking what the starting quarterbacks do, that's a good sign for Sam. I'm not ready to get rid of Taylor Heinicke or throw him to the wolves yet. I mean, for a number of reasons. I mean, I think Taylor Heinicke is just good for the quarterback room, even if he's not someone that you view as your backup quarterback and you want Sam Howell to be over him. I think Taylor Heinicke will do a good job in, mentoring Sam Howell, and not just Sam Howell. He's also helping Carson Wentz as someone who's been in his system before. So I do think that, Taylor Heinicke still has value there, but Sam Howell, back to him, I thought his performance was really good this weekend. I mean, as far as he didn't shit the bed, as a rookie do. I mean, he wasn't playing against top-notch competition or anything, but he showed flashes of why you drafted him. So he definitely put himself in a position to even be talking about being a number 2 quarterback, as AJ was mentioning, so that's a win in itself. And my last winner, the defensive line. I thought the defensive line looked pretty, especially the starting first string defensive line, even some of the second string guys. I thought Daniel Wise had a phenomenal game. He was making plays all over the game. I heard his name being called a lot. I seen him in the backfield. I saw him making pressures. So I thought he had a pretty good game. Fedarian Mathis, I mean, he showed why you kind of got him. He was eating
my
up
boy.
space. I know that Jamal's going to probably talk about him, but I definitely thought he was somebody who showed some promise on the defensive line. And of course, the starters. I mean, they were getting pressure, even though you didn't kind of reap the benefits of that pressure early on as the linebackers, and they were having coverage issues. So, but again, the pressure was promising to see. And obviously, I don't think that was with a game plan. So you may see more in the regular season. Losers, I got to say, Antonio Gibson. I mean, I don't have to go too much in depth with that. We already talked about why Brian Robinson was winning, and that's because a lot of it was due to Antonio Gibson losing. He can't fumble the ball. We talked about this last week. It cost us some games last year, and he's a guy that has to hold on to the ball, and he's kind of getting punished, as some of the viewers kind of mentioned. He's running with third string and things, so they kind of punishing him right now. Danny Johnson's another loser of mine. I mean, I saw that guy getting torched all over.
It took us long enough to break him up. Danny Johnson out there getting cooked. God,
man,
damn.
I mean,
yeah. See, I mean, I ain't bring up some of these people either because I just feel like they weak sauce, they mid anyway.
I'll say the issue is we didn't have a nickel back, bro. We need to bring. I mean, Ben St. Juice is hurt, so like we couldn't even do much about it.
Exactly,
I mean,
Jamal said that's why.
Ben's back at practice. He just had like some tightness in his hamstring, but he said he could have still played.
We need him to play. We need Ben to play because if he's not playing, you got Danny Johnson out there. that's where you've seen a lot of the early coverage issues from my viewpoint. I saw him getting toasted out there a lot. I mean,
bro, the dude gave up like 6 catches. That shit was bad, bro. He was out there. Like, they said they found out weak sauce, bro. They said he is it. I don't care what anybody else doing. We throwing his way.
And they went at him. And that contributed to the defense looking bad and kind of giving some people some scares. But hopefully Ben St. Juice gets healthy. He plays sooner than later. And my last loser is David Mayo. Especially for someone that Ron Rivera has kind of talked about this offseason. Like you heard Ron mentioning him.
Mid-ass player.
Yeah, and you heard Ron mentioning this guy in the offseason as, oh yeah, we like David Mayo. He's a guy that we can see on the field, and he looked lost in coverage. He didn't look good in coverage at all, and we need a coverage linebacker. So that's my winners and that's my losers.
So I don't want to cut it. I want to make sure P get all the time he need. And also I got a follow up that's going to come right back to P when he gets into his observations. But I think one of the things when it comes to this defense, I'm not going to lie to y'all, bro. I know people are upset at David Mayo. But I think people and it's not just Dre, but people, you see this all on Twitter. I think people are misunderstanding the fact that, in preseason, David Mayo's going to get a lot of burn. So it don't matter what he's good against. He's going to get targeted in the pass game. He's going to have pass reps, pass coverage reps, all those things. He's specifically here to be a run defender. So I wasn't even as mad as people was when you saw him getting cooked in coverage. That's not his strength. It is what it is. Like, you got him out there in pass coverage because he's in preseason. Like it is what it is for me. So
but you can't but even more, even if that, like, this ain't the early 2000s football. You better be able to play the run and
got roles,
pass.
brother.
Like Man, but you can't bring in David Mayo and say, yeah, and this personnel and be like, yo, your responsibility is to stop the run. Automatically, an offensive coordinator that sees the number is going to be like, oh, we passing.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, but I mean, it's a chess game, right? Like it is mismatched. Like imagine you're going up against a defense an offense who has tendencies where you know that you can fit in David Mayo in a run situation. Like it goes back and forth. It all comes about like what are you going to gamble against and where are you going to use David Mayo? And also, we're going to get into Jamin Davis later because I thought he had a solid game. But we're going to get into Jamin Davis. You may not even have to use David Mayo in most games. So I will talk about it later. I want to make sure P, because I know he's short on time, and I want to make sure P get all the time
and Nathan
in
Gary,
the world
that's
to get
my
everything.
last name.
Okay,
Nathan Gary is another name to work to. Yeah.
Okay, what's going on? What's going on, Jeff? My man, I know your name. Goddamn it. What's going on, Montel Hawk? Jerry, I see you in the chat as well. Percy Butler was supposed to help sooner on that scene. Mayo carried. I didn't talk about that part either, and that's why I wasn't really tripping on that one play because that was the one that stood out to everybody, really. But yeah, go ahead, P. You got the floor.
Well, I want to echo what you were saying about David Mayo a second ago. And while I feel you that this is not his thing, right? Under regular circumstances, he's never going to be in some sort of pass cover situation. But, we know that the depth there is very thin. He's one injury away from playing a lot. God forbid, he's 2 injuries away from never coming off the field. Injuries happen. This is the NFL. If something happened to Jamin, something happened to Cole, and David Mayo's on the field 60 plays a game, that's the mark. I'm going after him every single time. That goes back to a deeper issue.
David and Danny.
Yeah, it goes back to a deeper issue, and that's actually one of my losers is kind of the depth in the back seven. I mean, the linebacker depth obviously ain't there. You saw what happened to Danny Johnson. Ben St. Juste went down, and then Danny Johnson took the field. Danny's put on some good tape these past couple of years, but on Saturday, he's lost in coverage. He's getting beat like a drum out there. So that's kind of concerning. Another loser, I feel bad going in on Antonio Gibson, but I got to mention his name. I mean, everybody wants to say he had 1,000 yards last year, and he does have talent, but he also was fourth in the NFL in carries. So we know that he's inefficient. We know he led the NFL in fumbles. You take the field. The second time you get the ball in the preseason, you fumble again. And luckily now they've kind of made an emphasis on layering the running back room with J.D. McKissick. They got Brian Robinson, Jared Patterson still there. But, that's bad. And you saw on his face on the sideline. He got to the sideline. He had his head down. He was taking a knee. Other players were coming over trying to, talk to him. But, I'm worried there's something that could be in his head because, he has all the talent in the world physically. But if it's in his head, man,
hey, it's a wrap for him. Are you surprised that he fumbled?
No, not at all.
It was just a matter of carries. Like, it's just a matter of carries that he was going to fumble. He's not a natural running back.
I feel like he got like 10 to 15 carries between carries when he's due for another one. It's kind of like he gets you excited. He breaks off a long one. Then all of a sudden that joins from the turf and he's on the sideline again. I'm like, yo, what is this Tiki Barber bullshit, man? You can't put the ball on the turf every time you on the field, man. Like I said, man, you got all the talent in the world, but if we can't trust you, we can't trust you. And another loser. Let me go back to my loser list. I mean, should I even go in on David Mayo again?
Nah, you ain't got to do that. But you know what I'm saying? We could talk about. You talked about secondary, and then obviously depth overall. What do you all think about? I mean, to be honest with you, I'm gonna ask. Like, was there any more losers? Like, who would be considered a loser? Maybe. I mean, we talked about Antonio Gibson. Who else will be a loser in this game?
I feel like
special teams. We didn't even talk about that.
And Jack Del Rio, yeah.
I was going to say Jack Del Rio is a low key loser right there. I mean, first drive you get marched on, second drive you give up a touchdown, and this is preseason. Nobody cared what Jack doing in the preseason, but this man, people don't want to believe it, but he's very much on the hot seat, and you doing the same shit week one of the preseason that was going on the past 2 years. Defense don't look ready. Can't stop a third down.
Baker Mayfield been with the Panthers for 3 weeks. 3 weeks.
Was marching on us like it was nothing.
He looked like he had a rapport with them boys all off season. Like he was kicking it with them in February at the Super Bowl, March, April, May, June. Like he's been there 3 weeks.
AJ,
and he was.
I will say that The third down defense was horrible. I mean, as that's been the Achilles heel for Washington for a long time now, and is the third down defense. But let's not act like Baker Mayfield was out there carving us up or anything. I mean, the dude scored 3 points, and then they got the touchdown on us because Antonio Gibson hands them the ball on the 10-yard line. I mean, so let's be fair.
I only got one thing to say about that Baker Mayfield shit. Danny fucking Johnson, bro. 3rd and goddamn 6, bro. How are you playing inside leverage and you playing man coverage? And the only thing you got to do when you play inside leverage is not give up the inside. And what was the first thing we saw on that 3rd down in plus territory is that receiver catching that shit over the middle with Danny Johnson chasing his ass. Danny Johnson.
Juice.
It gotta be something, but it has to be something in that secondary they're being taught. If y'all pay attention on like 1st and 2nd down, they typically play closer to the wide receivers, right? On 3rd down, they give them the 1st down automatically just based off the cushion. So all it takes is 1 little second of a mistake, and that person is wide open for a 1st down. Like, you got corners playing 5-7 yards off when it's 3rd and 4. Like, it makes no sense.
It's an interesting thought because one thing that I said in my head was that because I don't know, like, coaching wise, like how much. So, like, put it this way, and this is the best way I can explain it. I Am Athlete, shout out to them, they do an excellent job. Same thing with the Pivot. 2 excellent shows. If y'all aren't hip, the listeners and viewers, y'all need to listen to both of those and watch both of those. But Adrian Wilson was on the show, and he was talking about, and it gave me insight and helped me understand, like, he was early on in his rookie seasons, or maybe his first 2 or 3 years, his coach had a scheme where he can only play 9 yards off the ball. He couldn't get up close to the line of scrimmage. He couldn't play off ball like 10 yards. He couldn't play squat coverage. He couldn't play 5 yards off. He couldn't do none of that stuff. He could only play 9 yards off the ball. That was the math. That was the science to that defense. And it dawned on me with certain coverages, like, everybody's defense isn't always like that strict to the point where you have to play 9 yards off the ball. Some people actually give you leeway, like, based on, what you're doing, or even if they trust you, you can manipulate the quarterback in a particular way as long as you reach your mark at the snap. I don't know how comfortable, I say all that to say, and I feel like I'm picking on Danny, but fuck it, I'm picking on Danny. I don't know how comfortable he is playing in certain coverages, bruh. And sometimes when you get that leeway in certain cornerbacks, like, they're going to go after you, depending on who you are. But at the same time, like, if you're giving up too much, sometimes it's, hey, what's up with you? Sometimes it's not even necessarily a coordinator issue. Like, sometimes that player is scared. Like William Jackson last year, I thought that he was giving up too much cushion. She does. Like, I thought William Jackson last year was giving up too much cushion. And that's why he was having issues. Like, he wasn't comfortable in what he was seeing in his own coverage. But I don't know if Danny Johnson is that comfortable in man coverage. I don't even know if he was supposed to be playing that far off the ball is where I'm getting at. That's literally where I'm getting at. I don't know if he was supposed to be playing that far off the ball. And that kind of gets into our main issue is, why are they playing so far off? I don't know. And it's a really good question, but I don't know if it's all coordinator thing and maybe something to do with the fact that these guys are a little bit too nervous and getting beat. So they're going to play a little bit further off than what they should be playing. That's just what I'm thinking. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next subject.
Paul wasn't done. I don't think Paul was done.
Oh, that's why I was waiting. I was waiting. Go ahead, Pete. Because you did talk about your losers. Who's some of your winners?
I knew he had
my losers on this list.
It's hard to pick. It's hard to pick losers on a preseason game, man. Because first off, everybody's snaps are limited, and I'm trying to give people the benefit of the doubt. Y'all still learning. It's the first day of school. But I do have a couple winners, and I'll keep it short. The first one is Armani Rogers, and he didn't really do much. He got 4 targets. Converted quarterback. I heard he could play a little bit. Very athletic. You can see that. I heard that the coaches were a little bit disappointed that he didn't come down with that first jump ball on that first 3rd down. I think they said he mistimed his jump a little bit, but I'm sure he'll come down with that with a little bit more practice with Carson Wentz. But I say that to say this. Wentz has always had a rapport with his tight end, whether it was with Goddard or Ertz in Philly. Logan Thomas is out. John Bates has been sidelined. You see Reyes had the IR today. There's not many people between him and actually getting some playing time. And the fact that Carson Wentz shows he has a little trust with him this early, says something to his ability. And maybe there's that rapport that they can build on moving forward. I'm not expecting him to be a big-time tight end target day one, but you're trying to fill out this depth chart, get some more tight ends in the room that can play. And if he has trust with these certain individuals, the quarterback, then, that only bodes well for the offense moving forward. Sam Howell, he looked good. I'm not going to gas him up too much. He was playing with threes, but he was playing against the threes as well. So he looked the part. He has an arm. He had command of the pocket. He was kind of going through his reads. So those are things I'd like to see from a rookie, a fifth-round rookie at that. Brian Robinson took advantage of a great opportunity for him. He saw the field, scored a touchdown, looked very efficient on his few carries, caught the ball well. And yeah, to echo what you guys said about D-line, Darian Mathis looked good. Daniel Wise looked really explosive, rushing the passer. Stephen Parker, what about Stephen Parker? I didn't really know who he was until I was like, oh, that's the USFL dude. I guess he spent some time on the Cowboys too, but every time he's on the screen, he was making that tough tackle, real physical, coming down the box. I don't know where he has room on the roster, but the secondary, there are some spots up for grabs. And if you were just a special teams guy, that's fine too. But he definitely showed out a little bit.
So, P, I know you got some things going on your side. I want to make sure I get you in with one more question. Winners and losers is good, but what are some things, if you had, and I know this is an impromptu question, but if you had some things that you were more focused on throughout the rest of this preseason, a storyline that and it doesn't have to be your top storyline, but some storylines that come to mind, but there are some things at the top of your head that you're going to be focusing on personally moving forward up until the start of the season. What are some of these things that's popping in your head? Is it that, obviously running back would probably be one, maybe even quarterback number 2 spot, anything like that that's jogging in your head. What are some of those storylines that you're going to be paying attention to moving forward?
One of the things I really do want to see is Wentz's rapport with the wide receivers a little bit more. Not that it matters, but Dotson didn't see a target on Sunday. Curtis Samuel got a bubble screen and he moved the chains on a third down. That was really nice to see. Terry had a really nice outright on a first down on a third drive. I think he converted for like 15 yards, ran over the cornerback. But I would like to see him connect with the wide receivers a little bit more moving forward. I know he loves his comfort blanket with the tight end, and I'm excited to see what he can do with somebody like J.D. McKissic. We know that Wentz doesn't really check down as much, but I would love to see him utilize that target. But I think this offense is going to go with Carson Wentz and the vertical threats of this offense. I think that if you look at what Scott Turner and Ron Rivera did in Carolina when they were very successful with Cam Newton was, they pound the rock, then take their shots downfield. And, we brought in Wentz because of his big arm, among other things. I would love to see, maybe not, a million times in a preseason game, but I would love to see a few deep shots in the coming weeks, show that they have that ability to go downfield, score in one play. Because if nothing, this offense has been so methodical and slow these past couple of years with these quarterbacks with the weak arms. I want to see us take our shots and maybe turn a 10, 15 play scoring drive into a 2 or 3 play scoring drive and show that ability to go downfield.
Yes, sir. Hey, P, as always, man, I appreciate you coming through and chopping it up with the fellas. Let the people know where they can find you and then where they can hear from you and your podcast, big dog.
Yes, sir. Thank you, man. If the Good Podcast, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, on TikTok. We're doing breakdowns every week. The podcast we're doing the weekly thing. I think once the season starts, we'll probably knock it up to 2 days a week. Probably do on Mondays and Thursdays like we have done in the past. But yeah, you can find us there.
Wait, let the people know, because I think I didn't even hear it. I know it, but I don't think I didn't think I heard it. What was it?
Oh, yeah, I said Mondays and Thursdays. We once the season starts, during the summer we usually do 1 day a week, just once a week. But once it's September, we're gonna start banging out these episodes again.
All right, there we go. Paul, 50 Gut Podcast, man. Appreciate you checking in, big dog. Enjoy the rest of your evening, man.
All right, appreciate y'all.
Yes, sir. All right, so there go P. Fellas. So let's go ahead and catch up to some of the comments, and we're gonna get into. We'll touch slightly on. Matter of fact, we can transition. We didn't touch too much on Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson, so we got to touch into that a little bit more. Let me catch up on the comments right quick. Mighty Dread checked in, man. I see you in there. Everybody hit that like button. You heard the guy. If you on YouTube, man, make sure you hit that like button. If you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button, all those things like that. Amani's in this thing too. I seen you. Why do they refuse to get linebacker depth? Everyone sees it, but the coaches, incredible. Here we go. Jared Patterson was a loser from Dre Trapganistan on Twitch. That is interesting. He was a loser, and it wasn't even his fault, to be honest with you. But he wasn't his fault. Where else? Casey Toohill looked good. Trapganistan said that Dotson got held on that post corner throw. He was targeted at one time. And a lot of people forget that. It was said on Twitter too, like he had 0 targets. But I mean, he got targeted. He also got a penalty called on that same play.
It was an unofficial target just because of the penalty.
Yeah. And then Hawk mentioned, to me, the way they build this team is like we're a dome team and we play outside. The strength on this offensive side is the receiver and the tight end positions. Fellas, let's go ahead and get through some injury transactions right quick, or injury/transactions. Cole Turner is expected to be out at least 1 to 2 more weeks per Ron Rivera. Wes Schweitzer is missing some time now, and Rivera says that there's a little bit of concern. He missed some practice time with what looked like to be a hip issue. Troy Apke, everybody's favorite safety, was released today. Apparently, he dealt with a calf injury all of training camp. So, it doesn't hurt that. It doesn't help that he was hurt and he didn't even have a chance to fight for his roster spot in a sense. And then Samus Reyes, the guy that mostly everybody was clamoring for in 2020 2021 based on his measurables in his 40 time, 4.5 at 6'5" or 6'4", and a project in a sense, has done nothing but have injuries since he's been in the NFL. And I'm not laughing at him, but it's just unfortunate because you just never know how these things are going to work out. But Samus Reyes is placed on IR with an injury designation. Now back to Antonio Gibson particularly. Rivera declined to speak post-game on his fumbles, but Scott Turner directly addressed them today, saying that that's one of the first things that we talked about when we get together as an offense. When training camp started, is to protect the football. We can't waste possessions, and obviously if you fumble the ball, that's a waste of possession. That's a ball carrier's first job, protect the ball. We can't have that. He knows that. I'm not saying anything to you guys that hasn't already been said. I read his comments too. I know he said the same thing. It's something that needs to be fixed. And Rivera said today about competition at the position. There's always been a competition for the positions on this team. So, fellas, today in Tuesday's practice, Gibson was spotted taking reps with the punt coverage unit as one of the protectors behind the front line of blockers. Previously, it was Brian Robinson in his role. Now it's Antonio Gibson. And then he played 11 on 11 with the third team offense that was led by Sam Howell. And something that I looked up earlier today in terms of Antonio Gibson's snaps on special teams, he's never played any snaps on special teams prior. And this is probably his first time even practicing special teams. He's never played it in season. So when people kind of mention that this is part of a practice situation or practice portion or whatever, I don't know if a guy who never played special teams and he's been in the league for 2 years, all of a sudden playing special teams in practice is an indication that everything's all right. Fellas, I'm going to hand the floor to you all. Whoever want to take this one first. What do you all make of Antonio Gibson's issues? And then what is his projection moving forward, given how Brian Robinson performed in his debut with Washington? I'm going to go get me a drink, by the way, so I'm listening.
I think when Antonio Gibson, man, you got to be mindful of how you manage this relationship because at the end of the day, you will need him during the season. Even if you now were projecting Brian Robinson to be your starting running back, you just never know what could happen. It's a game of football, especially for a running back. These guys are having people go at their legs, and the way Brian Robinson even runs, he's a big back, but he runs very high, so he makes the target zone for defenders very, very easy and visible. He's definitely going to get smacked a couple times until he learns to run behind his pads a little bit more and get low. So for me, I think you have to be very mindful of Antonio Gibson and how you manage this relationship. He's in a tough situation where they converted him from a wide receiver to running back. And in college, he only carried the ball 33 or 34 times. And now in the NFL, he's being expected to be a full-time RB number one. and run in between the tackles. It's different when you're a wide receiver and you catch a ball. You're going against maybe one or two players, three at the most, maybe. But when you're running in between traffic, like all type of people are going after that ball. They're going after your legs. They're going after everything, but especially attacking the ball. When they go into that week, they already know that you fumble at a high capacity. So they're punching for the ball even more than they probably typically would if they were facing a Dalvin Cook or a Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey, because they know that you have a tendency to give that ball up. So I just think it's something that he can't fix in the offseason. He literally would have to be getting tackled during the offseason in order to fix this issue of holding on to the ball. Like, yeah, you could try to fix it in your mind, get two hands on the ball, but that's not the type of player he is. Then on top of the fumbling, he doesn't have the natural vision of a running back. This isn't something that he's been doing predominantly most of his life, and a lot of people are forgetting that. I think that goes hand in hand with the fumbling, honestly. Because if you're,
his first play back, bro. His first play back, he missed a fucking cutback lane that would have took him at least 40 yards, bro.
It was a stretch play, but he could have cut back.
Yep.
His first play back, bruh. Like I get you, you upset, but you also playing it safe. Like you just gonna make sure you take the first green that you see, bruh. But hey, part of running back is bouncing back mentally too, and understanding that you still have to try to make do with and play ball. Like have that instinct, the instincts, and like I always say that I think he's lacking that in terms of like from a running back standpoint. And yeah, his first play back, bro. Like you still could have made something happen and you missed it.
Yeah. So I mean, it's easy for Brian Robinson to get the praise because he's a running back. That's what he's been doing. You feel me? He played running back at a top program in college in the top conference. So it's easy for the fans to be impressed. It's easy for the coaches to be impressed of what he can do because the guy who was in front of him or is in front of him at the moment is someone that's not a natural running back. And if you look at the depth chart, J.D. McKissic is also a converted wide receiver to running back, and he's not someone that most teams would want to run through, have him run in between the tackles. I feel like he can get the job done, but most teams aren't going to put that on him. So, yeah, once we knew the draft was coming up, we knew that they were going to get a running back. We just didn't know if it was going to be James Cook, Kenneth Walker, or Brian Robinson. They took Brian Robinson, and all along the plan has been for him to be RB number one as long as he doesn't get hurt. Because at the end of the day, you can't teach that vision. You can't teach those natural abilities to be able to see things before they happen. That's what makes running backs like Adrian Peterson so great. They could see those cut lanes. They could see where they can make those jump cuts. You don't see those things out of Antonio Gibson. He definitely has athletic ability, but he's not a running back. So that's where I say it's all about managing this relationship going forward. It was only about time that he was going to fumble. Me and Mual have been in spaces where we've had arguments with other people in the fan base about Antonio Gibson. They try to tell us about Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott, and all these other people. And I just kept saying, dude is always going to fumble. He's always going to have this issue because you cannot prepare in the offseason to run in between tackles and people punching at the ball. Like, you just can't simulate that unless you are going to play football. So I just feel like, at the end of the day, my key thing I'll keep reiterating is, you got to make sure that you just manage this relationship well with him and not have him be so dejected, because football is one of those sports where it's one play and you could be right back to relying on Antonio Gibson to carry the ball. And that's why the importance of depth and having veterans that know these things can help. If you even look in that running back room, they don't really have a veteran running back that can help with those type of things. That's why I felt like it was so damning for Antonio Gibson for Ron Rivera to release Adrian Peterson over Peyton Barber. Like, Antonio Gibson could have learned so much from Adrian Peterson during that season, from being able to hold on to the ball, different nuances of the game.
Yeah,
overall.
I fumble, but I'm better than you, player.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like I feel like Ron Rivera is so weird to me. Like, you bring in Thomas Davis to help with those type of things, but then you don't want to keep Adrian Peterson, possibly the greatest running back of all time, to help the kid that you drafted that's trying to transition into that position. Is dumbfounding for fucking Peyton Barber. Nah, bro. So just imagine if he had that tutelage of someone of that status and that background, he probably could be leaps and bounds ahead. But unfortunately, he's in a situation now where, you know, he's just trying to get in where he fits in, and we'll see how it plays out. But I think it already has played out. I think he'll be RB number 2. And hopefully they don't lose him mentally in the process where he feels like he should be elsewhere and possibly try to pull a. Didn't Matt Jones ask for a trade back in the day?
I don't remember, but you actually brought up a sneaky point because at one point today,
hold on real quick. I seen the comment. Rio, he may not have stopped his fumbling issues, but he definitely could have helped him along the way. And just overall the vision, just trying to pick up on different nuances and drills, picking up on like
now
how to hit this hole or cut back or whatever.
AJ, I'm gonna say this to the Adrian Peterson point. I think the whole cutting Adrian Peterson thing wasn't about because they didn't feel like he was good enough to be on a roster or whatever. I think the cutting Adrian Peterson thing came down to Adrian Peterson is not going to accept the role that we have for him here. Whereas Adrian Peterson was a starting running back the year before here in Washington, and he still showed that he had it. Like, he still showed that he, and this is also, we're talking about a Hall of Fame caliber running back here in Adrian Peterson. You know, we're talking about one of the best running backs that's ever played the game, coming off a season where he showed you that he still has it. And I think they wanted to go in a different direction, to go in a younger direction, in the Antonio Gibson direction. And Adrian Peterson, just from, if you've seen his stint with the Saints, where it was a short stint with the Saints where he was with Sean Payton, he was pissed when he was not playing. So I think that was one of those things where they, in their mind, I'm just speaking for them and, hypothetical here.
Yeah. But I think Adrian Peterson needed that bag. So
he needed the money too. No, you're right about that.
He would have did whatever. This fool just fought Le'Veon Bell this offseason. Like,
yes.
Come on, bro. Like that's when you know dudes is having money woes. Like,
but you are right. But at the same time, that ego and pride doesn't go away. That ego and pride that Adrian Peterson has doesn't go away. Now imagine Adrian Peterson sitting back watching Antonio Gibson, a guy who, you know, is not a natural running back. He's missing things that Adrian Peterson would see. Adrian Peterson at some point is going to be like, why am I not playing over this guy? I'm Adrian Peterson. You know, and that's why I think that they made the Adrian Peterson decision. Not so much that Adrian Peterson doesn't fit on this team or he's not better than the guys we have ahead of him, but we want to go in a younger direction. And Adrian Peterson probably feels like he can go still start and play somewhere else. I mean, that's just where the logic that I can try to justify from the Adrian Peterson.
I just threw out Adrian Peterson on the fly. I didn't come into this conversation even thinking about Adrian Peterson, but it brought back flashbacks that he got drafted. Gibson got drafted 2020, and literally a week before regular season, they decided to go Peyton Barber over Adrian Peterson, and they never had that power running back for the rest of the year. So even overall, whether he was going to be a mentor or not, Ron Rivera messed up on that as well. And I was just thinking about that on the fly.
Now, so before we get into it, I just got to, I'm checking with the guys. Corey, I see you. What's going on? As you know, as the conversation continued, yes, there is a running back controversy. Roger, I see you, big dog. I'm Amani. Yes, you was in the spaces with us talking about those running back things, man. It was crazy because for us, like we're trying to sit
Jamal,
here and
hey, Amani, what my magazine at, man? I've been asking for this magazine. I've been wanting this magazine for a month.
Bullshit.
My magazine, Amani. Hey.
See, I shouldn't have said his name. Now I done got you in trouble, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
But
I need that magazine.
Eric checked in talking about he just need to spend a night on Skid Row. But listen, before we get to Dre again, and Rio checked in. His vision woes, indecisiveness may be more of a concern. He leaves a ton of yards on the field, and that's a fact. Smash the like button for the guys. That's a fact. But Roger brought up a good point, and I think this is kind of the part that I think that we need to transition to is where are we at? Where is he at? He just needs to be in space. Speed outs, jet sweep, reverses, in motion, and out of the slot. Now, that's a lot of things, but I think the overall thing of him being utilized as a person who can get on the perimeter, that is more so the most important thing from my eyes. Like, if you can limit his exposures from the backfield in terms of his carries in between the tackles, I'm all for it. But Roger brings up a good point in terms of he needs to be out in space. You got to find a way to scheme him out in space. Scott Turner, that's your job. He still has playmaking potential, but I don't like using that potential word for a person who's 2 years in the league, going into his third year now, and hasn't shown that he is a playmaker. Like, he's had one opportunity, and that was against the Buffalo Bills that we were down 21-0. And then the other year before that, it was Dallas where we were facing a terrible Dallas team, a terrible Dallas defense, and he took off for 3 touchdowns. So I need to see playmaker. I don't need to see playmaking potential. It's up to Scott Turner at this point for me, to kind of see if he can scheme him open or scheme him into some offensive touches. That's going to be a benefit for this offense.
You got faith in that, Mual? Because I don't see no innovation with this whole staff.
AJ don't.
I don't see no innovation. Like,
AJ says, I seen
Kyle Shanahan. I seen Kyle Shanahan get creative with Deebo Samuel and use him out the backfield, use a bunch of those players in so many different ways. I don't see that innovation out of Scott Turner or anybody on this staff, whether it be on the field, scheming, or even the front office. I just don't even see the innovation or to be able to think ahead. Like, everything is like reactionary.
Well, look, this man said somebody blamed Jennifer King on his fumbles, bro.
I bet they did. That's why I told you. I told y'all when we started with these podcasts and shit, man. Like, I don't know how you can sit here and blame a position coach for anything that guys do on the field. Honestly,
Jennifer King, bro. Not even the running back coach. Not even the running back coach, bro.
Right. Randy Jordan is the running back coach.
He's the running back, and Jennifer King is just an assistant. But no, I kind of AJ kind of took one of my points as far as Antonio Gibson, because I've been seeing a lot of people, come in on Twitter and say, "Oh, we need to cut Antonio." No. First off, no, you're not cutting Antonio Gibson right now. You don't cut. He's not a surprise cut. You're not going to cut him. What he's going through right now is kind of, hey, stop this fumbling shit and you can get back on the field. But with Antonio Gibson, AJ, like I said, he mentioned a point that I was going to bring up. This is where Scott Turner has to get creative. Now, I don't mind Brian Robinson taking over as RB1 and Brian Robinson getting more snaps as the RB1. That actually makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. But what would make me feel even more comfortable is if Antonio Gibson has a plan. He has a game plan, or he's involved in a game plan like a Deebo Samuel. He doesn't have to be a high-volume Deebo Samuel or anything, because, obviously Deebo Samuel is most of the 49ers offense, but he can be a low-volume Deebo Samuel and what they use and how they use Deebo Samuel in this short passing game. But I do kind of realize there's kind of an overlap there, because it's kind of how you're using Curtis Samuel. Like, Curtis Samuel is kind of getting used in the same way, but Curtis Samuel isn't built like Antonio Gibson. Like, he isn't built to withstand, constant hitting the way physical Deebo Samuel can take. That's where I feel like Antonio Gibson can come in your game plan. I feel like this is where Scott Turner has to get creative with him. Like, instead of like shoving him to the side and say, okay, you're just RB number 2, you're a backup, we're not dealing with you because you fumble too much. No, find a specific role for him in this offense. And I believe that you can find that for him. And I hope Scott Turner does have a specific role laid out for Antonio Gibson in this offense. Like I said, a low volume Deebo Samuel is what I see right now in Antonio Gibson. I will be fine with that.
Man, they could use like, if I was offensive coordinator, man, I use Gibson in some bunch packages, some jet sweeps, have Curtis on the field as well. Just try to create some type of confusion for the defense. You don't know who's getting the ball. Like, you just have to get creative with playmakers, especially if you know someone is better on the outside. Like, don't no corner want to tackle no 6'3", 225, 230 running back that can actually run. Don't no corner want to see that. In between them tackles, them D tackles and linebackers, they win for that. That's lunch, breakfast, and dinner. You feel me? But them corners on the outside don't want those problems. Like, So yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Dre. Like, you got to get creative, man. At the end of the day, if something not gonna work, I mean, I feel like that's the main topic of today's show is getting creative and being innovative. Because the next topic that we get into is the same exact shit, and now we getting praises of that player.
All right, hold on. So we definitely about to transition right now. Let's get into Jamin Davis to close out this show, man. So Jamin Davis has been getting a couple of votes of confidence or whatever the word is, some confidence votes in the public light. And J.D. McKissick was one of the people who was quoted, I think, either today or yesterday, talking about he looks like a totally different player. I personally saw what Jamin Davis, like the production. I seen his mental ability in terms of understanding what his assignments were defensively. I understood his run fits was really good. He attacked what he saw, what he trusted. He attacked it and played physical at the line of scrimmage. At the point of attack, he was able to close these gaps and force running backs out of their gaps, out of their run assignments, and bounce the hole and allow his teammates to make plays for him. There wasn't a lot of exposure. And for those who are listening and those who listen to the morning show, good news. I got the film. I got the coach's film for preseason. So you will be getting film sessions. We will be getting film sessions. Now, I can't do them live because I can't tell you where I got it from. Just be honest with you. But we will see everything. But to this point,
you got it from a coach. I'm just playing.
Look, man, I got it from somebody. You know what I'm saying? But to this point, though, Jamin Davis, and I haven't seen the coach's film on Jamin Davis yet, but I'm saying from my eye, looking back at even at the game film, definitely seen some good signs for Jamin. And obviously, with saying that, he's seen more in practice as well. So there's been some reviews, some positive reviews on Jamin Davis, and I believe John Common said something as well. But what also ticked AJ off, or at least got our attention on Jamin, was what Dre said about the boy Jamin Davis. So I'm gonna let y'all take over from here, and we can talk about the conversation about Jamin Davis.
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, and I mentioned this one. Yeah, I was gonna say, I didn't know if he said me or not. You know, the drink's getting to me a little bit, AJ. But I'm gonna go first this time.
Y'all be so late on this damn show, and I just be drinking water. Like,
look, I know you be drinking water, AJ, but you the motherfucking bottle man. Like AJ on the weekends, man, I got the bottles and everything on the show.
No bullshit, bro. Got the bottles, bro, going out in the city, bro. You don't even hit us up, bro. Tell us to pop out to the city, bro.
Hey, on the weekend,
got like 30 bottles and shit.
Crazy thing, I just signed a deal with Lobos with LeBron James tequila company. So
let me get a sample bottle then, bro, so I can drink
in the area. So I got you. We'll get everybody a bottle so we can just plaster it right in the middle of our fucking cameras and shit.
We can get AJ lit on this motherfucker one day, man. We're gonna have AJ lit.
One day, bro. Just have a free flowing show. Everybody drinking. They ain't no agenda. Everybody drinking. Yeah, congratulations, bro. Let's get back to Jamin.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead with Jamin first with the Jamin thing. So I mean, my thing is, I mentioned on Twitter earlier. This is like, I mean, this week in the last couple of weeks actually is the first time I've actually been hearing positive, glowing reviews about Jamin Davis that's been unsolicited. Like last year, if you remember in training camp and preseason, we didn't hear much about Jamin Davis. Like the common thing was, what is our first round pick doing? You know, like is he ready to play? And then you go into the regular season. Jamin Davis was a backup in the regular season. If you remember, John Bostic and Cole Holcomb were the two linebackers that started last year. And the only reason Jamin even got his opportunity is because John Bostic had a season injury early on in the season last year. So they had to play Jamin a lot earlier than they wanted to play him, which obviously is not ideal for your first round pick to say, hey, we're only playing this guy because we had an injury ahead of him. So he got exposed early on. He was not ready. And they tried to play him at middle linebacker, Mike linebacker, and he was not ready for that slot. I mean, and that's honestly probably not the slot he's ever going to be ready to play in the NFL. So they tried him out there and they were hoping that he would work out there, and he didn't. And it didn't work out. But again, it goes back to preseason and training camp of 2021. We didn't hear a lot about Jamin Davis. And if you listen to some of the people who were watching him play a lot last year, no one really had any glowing or positive reviews about him. Kind of like how you hear about Jahan Dotson this year. You get a lot of good glowing reviews from Jahan Dotson, from everybody essentially that watches him. But you didn't get that from Jamin Davis. This year, it's starting to be a little bit different trend with Jamin Davis. Even, the people who are out there watching every day, they're saying, hey, Jamin Davis is getting a little better. He's flashing. Ron Rivera is unsolicited. He's speaking about Jamin Davis, without even being called about Jamin Davis. He's saying, hey, Jamin's improving, and then you got J.D. McKissick making comments. He looks light years different. But again, this doesn't matter until he actually puts it together in a season, but it's encouraging to hear. And hopefully, this carries over to the season. When we drafted him, he was what you would consider a high ceiling player, kind of raw. And a lot of people don't want raw players when they draft them in the first round. You want guys, a lot of fans want guys that's going to make an immediate impact, kind of like what we're seeing in this year's draft. And the funny thing about this year's draft, a lot of people consider this draft to be a safe draft. Oh, we drafted a lot of safe players. We drafted a lot of high floor players, low ceiling guys. But from those draft picks that you're seeing, the Jahan Dotson, Fedarian Mathis, Brian Robinson, Percy Butler, Cole Turner, you're hearing that these guys might be immediate impact guys, even though they may be, what you might consider a low ceiling guy, but they're going to be immediate impact guys. Last year, you drafted guys like Jamin Davis, Diami Brown, Sam Cosmi. They were all high ceiling guys, and you didn't kind of reap the benefits early on. But that's what you kind of get when you draft high ceiling guys. You have to kind of wait. You have to develop these guys and hope that investment pays off. So hopefully we're hearing the things we're hearing about Jamin Davis coming in this offseason is a precursor to what's to come for Jamin Davis. And not only Jamin Davis, but a Diami Brown. We need those investments to pay off on those high ceiling guys. And it's encouraging to hear that he's looking good. And not only he did look good in the game. As Jamal pointed out, he had a pretty good game this past week, but he's also having good practices. And it will be so beneficial to the team if he starts showing the return of the investment. And hopefully, this is a precursor, as I said.
Yeah, I think my rebuttal to like the low ceiling guys and people raving saying they look good is because there's no depth at these positions. A lot of these positions within this team, the way the team has been built out, is if one person gets hurt, you're scrambling. You're just using a bunch of different guys. Like Logan's hurt, you have to see what Cole Turner looks like. In most cases, most franchises, Cole Turner never gets any reps because they have depth at that position. So just from a player personnel standpoint, the way this team has been built out, you have to count on those low ceiling guys to be impactful. Maul, I'm gonna let you say
Logan and John both hurt though. So technically,
yeah, they both hurt. Piece. No, they both hurt, but most franchises would have addressed those positions within the offseason, right or wrong.
They did. They drafted a depth piece. Like
I'm saying like a veteran. I'm saying a veteran presence. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They would have went and got a veteran linebacker, not a Jerry, not bringing back a Mayo. They would have went and got a different type of tight end. Yeah, that's what I was saying. But back to the main point, like Jamin, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. To your point, I'm over here lost in the sauce. But you connected it back to the linebackers. To the linebacker side, I'm actually with you.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't necessarily 100% sold on Cole, and we can long story short my point, so you can get back to it. To long story short, my point in that the transition from them saying that we need a middle linebacker to days later saying we're going to give Cole Holcomb a shot. I'm like, weird, but whatever. All right, you make your bed, you lie in it. Type shit. That's kind of.
You've been in those spaces defending the fact that was said, and then these motherfuckers turn around and try to tell us like it never happened. Like you know that you have a glaring need there, and now all of a sudden this person is on.
They said film evaluation changed their mind. So if you want to go that route, go ahead, man. Like I'm not. All I've ever said to this point, and I'm gonna let you go. All I've ever said to this point, and I'm in agreement with AJ on this one in terms of their decision making. But all I've ever said is, if you explain yourself well and I can understand it, okay. But do I think you made the right decision? that's to be determined right now. I don't think you did. I think you could have chased it or went after a linebacker. But if you say one thing, let's see it out. I can understand why you like Cole, but does that mean that he was the right fit for middle linebacker? I don't know. To be determined. AJ, back to you on this situation.
Yeah, and I think for me, man, with Jamin Davis, I think you're hearing the high reviews of him because Ron and company got out of the fact of trying to force this man to play middle linebacker. When they drafted him at, what was it, the 19th pick overall last year, they were telling the media and telling their fans that this guy was going to fill that void of a middle linebacker. So when you do that and that guy doesn't succeed, doesn't get reps, he's not playing, it puts a lot of pressure on him mentally. And then also the fans are putting pressure on him to like, yo, where's your impact? But in all honesty, he should have never been drafted to be a middle linebacker, especially as a first-round pick, because his issue coming out of Kentucky was he had issues shedding blocks and taking on blocks as a middle linebacker. When you put him out in space, he can make plays on the ball. He has enough strength. He has enough strength to get off of tight ends and make those plays with the ability to run. So now you're actually seeing that going into year 2, where they're utilizing him as an outside linebacker and letting him do what he can do best and play to his strengths. So that's why you're getting the high reviews. You're seeing him make plays in practice. You're seeing him, get interceptions in practice. You're seeing the impact of him in preseason game number 1. We'll see what he does this week, but you're seeing him being able to play to his strengths, whereas this staff was playing him to his weaknesses, and it literally took them over a year to adjust to what this man does good. And that's where, for me, the lack of innovation, the lack of playing to your guys' strengths and being ahead of the curve is alarming for me when it comes to the staff. I feel like they keep trying to force guys to do things that they're not comfortable with and they will never be comfortable with. And it just keeps putting guys in weird positions. I mean, you bring in a William Jackson, even, for example, you force that man to play so much zone, and after the bye week, you come and play Tampa. Now he's getting to play more like himself and feeling more comfortable. William Jackson has even talked about feeling more comfortable and understanding what he needs to do. And that's, there's also a point where, you need to be a corner and be able to play, man and zone. But at the same token, it's just hold on, guys.
Well, AJ, I will say this. In regards to Jamin, I know you mentioned that, Ron and them didn't have a foresight to see that he wasn't a middle linebacker when they drafted him. But sometimes you learn about players as you put them out there. You learn about what they can do. Like you may see him in college. I hope you can reject him. And in Jamin's case, it's not that he doesn't have the physical ability to play middle linebacker. He just didn't have the mental capacity to take in everything that was given to him to play that position. You need to be a mental there.
Dre,
before you go, I'll say this as far as William Jackson goes as well. You mentioned him getting comfortable later, and it wasn't him getting comfortable because now they're doing things that William Jackson is comfortable doing. He was getting comfortable because now he's more comfortable playing in this scheme, in this system. He's learning this scheme. And sometimes it takes patience. Like, we as fans, we kind of expect everything to happen in a microwave vacuum type of moment where we're like, oh, this needs to happen right now. This needs to happen right away. But sometimes things take time. Like sometimes you put things in a slow cooker. Everything don't go in a microwave, and a lot of times with this team, we do want things to happen in a microwave because we haven't seen it happen in a long time. But with Ron, I do think he deserves the benefit of the doubt in the staff to say, hey, we can put things in a slow cooker and we're brewing and you can see what we're doing in the vision and hopefully this works. But I will say this is a make or break year for everyone. Coaching staff, a lot of the players, it's a make or break year.
I mean, I think with the Jamin Davis selection, right? I don't think it was a mental issue. Of course, because I'm trying to recruit during the college season, so I'm looking at a lot of tape, especially SEC football. I'm seeing that this Jamin Davis kid that people are raving about can't get off of blocks in college. Why would I then think I could draft this guy first round and put him at middle linebacker in the NFL? Like, it's just not going to work. I don't know if Mual watched any of Jamin Davis tape prior to him getting selected, but even when you turn on that tape, you can clearly see that this guy can't get off of blocks at that position, and nothing's going to change on the next level. So that's where I'm like the foresight. He should have been an outside linebacker from day one. And if you realize that even when you have your hands-on opportunity, move that man to outside. You know, like let him get comfortable there. Of course, like as a rookie, you have a lot of adjustments that you have to make to the fact that you now have money, you have a lot of responsibilities, you're adjusting to a new city, new staff, learning a lot of different nuances. And I feel like, you know, Jamin is more comfortable in that sense. But just on the field, I just want coaches to put guys in the best position for them. And I think that's what's happening now for Jamin Davis going in year 2. He's not expected to be that middle linebacker. He can kind of play off the strength of Cole Holcomb calling in the plays and also helping him get lined up. And that's provided him a lot of flexibility to be able to not have to think as much. And I want to say I heard him say that to the media. I've definitely had conversations where it's been said to me personally, but I think he also said that to the media, that it's helped him be able to play the game fast, because you want certain guys to be able to know what they're doing. And when they know what they're doing, they can play faster. So I think that's my main concern, you know, with the defensive side of the ball. You know, I'm happy that Jamin is feeling comfortable. I hope he continues to make plays in the preseason, and that also translates over to the regular season. I think he has all the athletic tools that, you know, you want out of your today's linebacker, especially on the outside. I just feel like they didn't do him any justice drafting him at 19 and saying he was the middle linebacker.
Yeah, here's just one thing I say, because I want people to be aware, because people have said this on Twitter too, actually today, in fact. It's not when people talk about like that weak side, or just like outside of like outside linebacker in general, you're going to be taking on blocks regardless of who it is. Like in Jack Del Rio's defense, it is a one gap defense. So anybody in the box, anybody is going to be responsible for a gap, whether it's that middle linebacker or that weak side linebacker or that strong side. However they have it lined up, if you are a linebacker or a box player playing that Buffalo nickel role, you are responsible for a gap. Even at one point, Percy Butler in the first preseason game, he was responsible for a gap. And I think that's kind of I think that's the one key misconception when we talk about not being a middle linebacker. Jamin Davis is responsible for plugging up holes just as much as he would be if he was in the middle linebacker spot. And I don't think nothing changed in that regard. I think the only thing that helps for weak side guys is they're able to run a little bit more freely. Now, I can't like in a concrete way tell you like how much of a benefit that is for Jamin, but I do know, like, to what AJ, what you said in terms of Cole Holcomb being responsible for identifying the calls, communicating the calls, and making it easier on everybody else, which includes Jamin Davis. I think that'll help him out a lot, because he doesn't have to worry about thinking too much in terms of communicating and identifying what's in front of him. But I think that there's a lot of similar traits from a middle to a weak side. It's just that, you know, there's just one significant role that's reduced. He still has to play physical inside that box. And I want people to understand that, like, people who are on Twitter talking about, you know, he doesn't have to worry about that shit. Y'all are wrong. And then if you're listening to this, understand that, you know, in a gap scheme, in a one gap scheme, the way that Jack Del Rio likes to play, you gonna have, if you in that box, you gotta run, you got a gap. If you in that box, you got a gap. So yeah, that's kind of where I was at with Jamin.
And I think a point that I wanted to really hit home on, I just got a little distracted, was just the innovation and being able to put your guys in better positions. Like, you take Dan Quinn, when Dallas Cowboys drafted Micah Parsons last year, he was drafted to be an off-ball linebacker. When they had that injury take place with DeMarcus Lawrence, immediately Dan Quinn got creative and put Micah Parsons at DN. And that's when you seen him make his impact. They didn't originally draft Micah Parsons to be a pass-rushing DN. Yeah. They drafted him to be an off-ball linebacker. But, you know, it's it's having that foresight and understanding your players' attributes. And in my opinion, just knowing Micah Parsons over the years of his tape at Penn State, I felt like he was a better pass rusher than off-ball linebacker. And luckily, Dallas seen that and made those adjustments. And I just feel like, the adjustment that's being made here for Jamin Davis, he'll still be taking on blocks and everything of that nature. I think that's going to go a long way for him. I just wish that it would have happened a bit sooner in the season last year, so he could have got some live reps there. And then coming into this year, he'll be there full time. But overall, they still need to go ahead, make that phone call to Roquan Smith personally, and try to get a linebacker in here, man. Like I almost kind of want them to get exposed against the Kansas City Chiefs. Like I want them to kind of get exposed.
AJ wants them to get exposed every year, every game, as long as Ron Rivera. Let's get that straight.
A topic that we're not going to touch tonight, of course, because we've been on here for a while. But Dre, you said something that makes a lot of sense now. You're seeing the way that Ron Rivera is moving with a lot of things. You're seeing, the firing of Sam Mills. You're now hearing Scott Turner's not going to be calling plays in the booth anymore. He's going to be on the sideline. Ron Rivera knows he's in trouble for this year 3.
Well, I don't know if it's trouble. It's more so he just feels pressure that I have to give the fans promise, not just the fans, but just to show in this league that I have this organization going in the right direction. I mean, if you look at the first 2 years, I mean, anybody can say, all right, we'll give you the first 2 years. The first year you took over a franchise that was 3-13 the year before I got here. So you can't expect, I mean, let's be realistic here and say that you can't expect too much of a big turnaround. Even though the first year Ron Rivera got here, he took the team to the playoffs, but it was a back into the playoffs. He backed into the playoffs because the division was historically bad that year that he was here for the first year. And Washington went to the playoffs. The second year, because you went to the playoffs in the first year, you ended up playing a first place schedule. You played the hardest schedule in the NFL. I think the Washington schedule was ranked, if not the worst, the hardest schedule in the NFL. It was top 2. But they came out with 7 wins. They dealt with COVID. They had injuries, whatever the case may be. Backup quarterback. It was a lot of things going on that second year. And he had his own issues. Ron's not a perfect coach. Let's be honest here. I mean, he had his issues into why they probably didn't do better than they did. But either way, you take it into context and you say, okay, first 2 years, he's won 14 games here. Third year, now, I mean, you can kind of look past those first 2 years. You can take it for what it is. But the third year, now you're saying you can't win 7 games. I mean, it's a lot of reasons why you can't win 7 games. One of those reasons is you have now what a lot of people will say the easiest schedule in the NFL. So you can't go out there and give me another 7-game season and tell me that everything's okay.
And then try and spin some bullshit.
Exactly. And I'm promised I'm confident that you're the coach leading us going forward. So you can't come out and do what you did the first 2 years now. And I say that to say that this could be the situation anywhere in the NFL. The third year that you're coaching the team, you should be better than in your first 2 years. I mean, the grace period is over. So, this is, like I said, regardless of whether it's here or anywhere, Ron Rivera's grace period is over. Now the fans and everyone wants to see promise. We want to see you showing that this team is on the right direction and we have the right person leading these guys. So that's my whole point with the whole make or break thing. My make or break thing is that Ron Rivera can't just trot out an average season this year. He can't give us 7 to 8 wins. Ron Rivera has to take this team to the playoffs to show any kind of promise. I mean, it's a lot of factors involved. Like I said, we have the easiest schedule in the NFL.
So, Dre, if your man, Ron Riverboat Rivera, doesn't lead this team to the playoffs and doesn't look like a competent team in year 3, what is your call? Some people in the comments saying you got the Washington fan low expectation mindset. What would you do? What would you do if Ron Rivera doesn't lead this team to the playoffs and doesn't look like a competent team?
Then I'll be on his ass the same way I was on Jay Gruden's ass by year 3 or year 4, whatever I was on Jay Gruden's ass. I'll be on Ron Rivera's ass the same way. At this point, because to me, I've seen 3 years. At this point, if he doesn't take them to the playoffs, now obviously it's not my call to say, hey, we're gonna fire this guy or whatever the case may be. I don't know what.
No, it's your call. You Daniel Snyder.
Oh, so he's saying okay.
Black Snyder.
I'm Dan Snyder now.
Yeah.
Oh, if I'm Dan Snyder, and Ron
Rivera
doesn't make the playoffs,
the allegations.
Yeah, if he doesn't make the playoffs, given what we think this team is on paper right now, and what this schedule was supposed to be on paper right now, then I probably have to go in a different direction. I have to go in a different direction at the head coaching position because something's not working here. That's just
how bad does it have to be? No, so how bad does it have to be? Because you can be 9-8 and miss the playoffs.
How ugly?
So what is the win?
But that's kind of what I was getting. That's kind of what I was getting into earlier, in that'll be another average season. I think a 9-8 season this season will be equivalent to a 7-10 season last year. In a sense, because I don't know if 9-8 would be good enough to make the playoffs this year. I mean, it could be good in some years, but let's assume it's not good enough to make the playoffs this year. And to AJ's point, and it's something that you just looking at the schedule and looking at the what you have. That's what I'm saying.
He said he ain't making me pay Black Friday.
Well, I think this Chevy person is a little bit, impulsive. That's AJ Jr. Chevy is AJ Jr.
Shout out to AJ Jr.
That's AJJ.
Let me claim you on my taxes. That's it.
We giving 2 J's to Chevy. That's AJJ. But back to my point. I mean, Ron Rivera. I mean, if you're talking 9-8. I will put that at the equivalent of a 7-10 season for last year, because 7-10 last year we played the hardest schedule, and I'm giving them a little slack to say, hey, you played the hardest schedule. You made 7-10 with a backup quarterback. Now you tell me you've upgraded the quarterback position. You're playing the weakest schedule in the NFL, and you're only giving me 9-8. And to AJ's point, we may miss the playoffs this year. I'm unimpressed.
Nah, you know what the weird media is gonna do? One of my pet peeves, they're gonna call 9-8 a winning season, a winning record. If you didn't make the playoffs, how the hell can that be considered a winning record? I've always been confused by that. Like,
look, they gave us that in 2016. I was like, bro, ain't no way y'all gave us a winning record for that what 8-7-1 bullshit. I ain't even acknowledge it. I was like, all right, bro, that's what's up. Good for y'all. I can't do that shit, man.
But yeah, I think it'd be interesting, man. I think it'd be interesting. I definitely can sense that he's feeling some type of pressure that he can't keep trouting out these excuses.
For sure. Hey, so listen, it's always going to be plenty of opportunity to talk about that. And this conversation, as always, y'all know that shit is fire, man. I love the conversation we had with everybody. I see you all in the chats, man, trying to make sure we get them likes up. It is important. And I appreciate y'all in the chat that's pushing for every single individual that's in here that hasn't hit the like button yet. I'm not monitoring, so I don't know exactly what's going on the YouTube side. But listen, I see it on the StreamYard side. We got a lot of viewers in here, and clearly apparent to the chats and the comments, we ain't got that many likes. We need to get y'all likes up, man. If y'all are listening, y'all are still in here. I see the numbers, and it's still growing as we about to close out. Hit that like button, man, and make sure if you are just checking in, hit the replay so you can catch up on the conversation. AJ was in here, Dre's in here, Paul from the 50 Gut podcast. I don't know why I said that 50 Butt. That's weird as hell. 50 Gut podcast. I don't know anything. We ignoring that, man.
Myself with the 50 butts.
Yeah, do that. Please do that. I think I need. Hey, look,
myself with all of that.
Hey, bro, I just need some Blistex. That's all that is, bro. My lips.
Well, look, but
you know what I'm saying?
What I'll say on the likes is, I'll tell you all, like a guy told me at PG Plaza some years ago that he was trying to sell me his CD. He told me a more colorful language, but I'm gonna keep it a little PC for you all. He said, "See, either you're gonna like me now or you're gonna like me later. So like me now, but don't wait till later to like me." That guy gave me something a little bit worse. I don't know if I want to tell y'all what he told me in PG Plaza years ago, but
you might as well say it. Wait, tell the whole story.
This is what he told me, because I told him I didn't.
Yeah, we close out on the story, man. Close out. Yeah, tell us what's going on.
Guy that I didn't want to spend $5 on someone I didn't know for his CD. This guy responds to me, said, "It's either you're gonna be on my dick now or you're gonna be on my dick later."
All right, we out. We got 50 butts and dicks.
That's it.
Hey, this is wild how we ended this shit. Hey, the Trapper Dive, watch the Commanders morning show tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. All 32 tomorrow night, 7 p.m. And then the fellas back on Thursday for the pregame preview of the Commanders and Chiefs, trying to tap into what we want to see from these guys. So with all that being said, we out of here. Appreciate y'all watching. Appreciate y'all tuning in. All that good stuff. Appreciate all the love in the chat, man. Everybody on YouTube, everybody on Twitch, man, for the day, for the night. We catch y'all later.